story. Because, you know, I base a lot of materials on people that really lived. I spend 3 to 5 years of research just learning about that period of time. And there's, you know, it's not just a story to me. I personally lived it. You know, I go and cut down trees, and I do the things that are in my stories too. So I know what it physically feels like to be able to be part of those characters and what their experiences were. So I think it's also part of the responsibility of the authors to reach back out to those kids and say, hey, you know, what would it be like, or what do you think, or, you know, if you had a lumberjack name, what would it be that you would think you'd like to be called? And, you know, they like to stump us. So I like to stump them sometimes too. But, you know, it's a two-way street, and it gives a door of opportunity for us authors to be able to see where those kids are getting the information they need, and you know, for our next book, maybe change it up just a little bit because, oh, I missed that in this last book. I want to make sure they get it in the next one. So, you know, it's also part of our jobs as authors that are part of the Ask program to reach back to those kids and ask questions.
Good point, Jamie. Thank you for saying that, because I do try to get that out to other authors, but sometimes it's hard to do when I'm not there with them. If they're sitting in the room with me, we work it out really well.
It's fun to blow the minds of those children. It makes it fun for all of us.
Right?
Thank you.
I'm sure you've shot them too, Jane, because
I try.
They come prepared with a question. They don't think they are going to be questioned and put on the spot. And by an author, that's pretty cool.
Well, and some of the letters I get back, they ask me 9 million questions, and I've got piles of letters. I'm like, now they're asking a question again or turning around. Sometimes I have teachers that contact me after the Ask program and say, hey, could you come to our lumberjack breakfast? And I'm going, I'm in Virginia, and that's a little bit of a drive. And they say, no, can we do it on Skype? And so, you know, I've done connections where I just go back after I've done an Ask program and just go to their lumberjack breakfast or to their voyageur encampment or the different things. They just bring me along because they bring their computer and say, look, and they're showing in every direction all the things they're doing. And I'm like, how cool is that? Because I think authors want to spark the imagination and the creativity of those children. You know, I want them to be a better writer than I am. I want them to see into history more than what I could see. And so, you know, it's this. Like I say, Ask is really a wonderful program. It gives us an opportunity to reach out and bring those kids into more of a focus of what it is we're trying to say and maybe miss the words to do it.
And I think the binders that you're sending out are very helpful with the information.
Is it too much information?
No, because you can weed through what you want. I think it helps the new teachers that are getting involved. Makes it less.
Oh, that's good to know. Thank you. And what do you think about the hands-on? Any ideas about that? How could authors do hands-on?
I think, like she said, she try to get them involved, ask them questions, and maybe, you know, what do you think about this? Because sometimes when we're reading through the books, we're, with the time constraints, we're not able to really get into the deep thinking. You know, there might be some areas where they feel like we missed something. They point that out.
Okay. Do you like it when the authors show their writing and illustration process?
That's always some of the questions that the students have. That's always number one. How do you do, you know, where do you get your ideas? What is your process? Because they don't want to do the whole process, so they're, you know, trying to find out, do they really do this? You know, so.
Did they hire someone to write for them?
Yes.
One of the authors that I had done with my classes past year, when they talked about their writing process, it inspired my kids so much to write their own stories that my kids were taking paper and pencil out with them at lunch recess time and collaborating with each other and trying to write these mysteries together because they were inspired so much by one of the authors that we had done. So that was really awesome because I didn't have a class of really strong writers. and it really helped to bring that out in them. So it was very cool. It was very cool for them.
Can I just interject a little bit?
Yes.
I'm Rhiannon, by the way, and I am new to the Fraser Public Schools in Macomb County, but I've been teaching for a while. And one of the things that I've noticed is that you had brought up that they don't understand it. They can't have these deep questions. And I work mostly with students who struggle and things like that. And building up that background knowledge is huge. So I was just making some notes as everybody was talking about what either the ISD could do or the authors could do when they're doing these programs. Maybe having like set multimedia or art or video or something that, so they're reading this story and, well, here, let's watch a clip of something that's like that. Because it could be something as simple as I was working with some 5th grade students and the story said something about they were on a dock and they were doing this. And I stopped and they were all confused. None of them knew what a dock was. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of background knowledge that's missing with kids. So maybe having some like set videos of just building up that background knowledge. And then just some extension activities. I didn't know there was a binder, so I'll have to check those out because I've never done this. Maybe with some cross-curricular, like how can we incorporate art project or a science project? So is that sort of what's already in there? That's really cool. But I think those little videos, and the kids are very tech. You know, they're reading the book, but having like a video or something like that, that not necessarily is of that book, but background.
Am able to include videos in
That's
the
cool.
container of materials.
Yeah.
Some videos I just cannot find. I do look
Yeah.
for them, but I can't find appropriate
And then
videos
what she
for
was saying, like
educational
artifacts
use.
of things they can try on, those types of things are huge. Like if I don't know if
Oh.
anything like that is available, you know, if they can try on a hat or some kind of something, I don't know, like if a lumberjack, maybe like even like a fake, you know, a tool that they would have used or something. Those kids love those types of things.
Right.
Because the thing with me, it's just not you. There's 12 teachers I have to do.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, and so there's 12 containers of materials. I have a notebook for each container. I have a poster, so that's 12.
Yeah.
And it never fails where something's always lost at the end of the year, so I have to make extra.
Right.
So it's always 15 of each that I
Right.
make. And I have to keep inventory of all this. When the
Oh, that's
books
huge.
come back, I have to go through each book, tape them back together, throw out books that are really bad shape, and reorder new books. So all this is on me.
Yeah.
And that's what I do during the summers, mainly take books back together, make new binders or new posters, get materials ready, schedule the authors. So it's a big load, and I really try to get the hands-on materials. One book we did, I managed to get a mineral set with magnifying glass.
I did have one.
Yes, and I thought, oh, this is so cool. But then only 2 teachers signed up for the whole program, so, you know, that went away.
Yeah, probably like some,
Yeah, but I thought it was, and I really try to get hands-on, but if I can't do it, I do expect the teacher to go out and do something themselves with what is their class. You know, and it's really hard to be that mean and say it in the notebook or say it in the emails, you know, and I'm just hoping the teachers get it. You know, that
Right.
I just can't do it all.
Absolutely.
Denise?
Or that you would provide it, but just even to give ideas of these are things that are accessible that you could get for your classroom. Not that it has to be in the
That's a
bin.
good idea, yes. Even the office.
Denise? A lot of the historical societies and local communities are now putting educational boxes together for schools and classrooms. And I know scads of teachers that are doing the ASK program are contacting their historical society and asking them to do that, whether it deals with lumbering or fur trade or iron mining industry or whatever resource it is historically they're looking at. And a lot of these historical societies are happy, or they bring someone to come in and bring these artifacts in to show the students, and it goes right along with the ASK program. So reach out to your local community leaders that are part of the history network, because a lot of them do provide these things and it's all free. They will send you come pick up the box and they'll put it together for you, or they'll send somebody right to your classroom and it goes right along with what you're reading. So that's a nice little coup that's going on now. And it takes the pressure off from you, Denise, to have to provide it all.
Yes, I love it. What a good idea. And it's on the website, the information for that?
On my website, no, basically
No. Oh, go ahead.
Basically, you just have to call up your historical society and ask them. And, you know, it's not, you don't even have to take a field trip to take them to the museum itself. Oh, they're just boxes they put together and will send. And sometimes I just did one recently that dealt with, where was I? Mount Pleasant. And they had box after box after box of different things that they had put together for different resources that teachers need. And they're just waiting for people to call them and ask them, do you have an educational box that I can use in my classroom that will teach this or talk about it in our community? And oftentimes they'll send somebody. So if the teacher just can call or just make a connection with their historical society, there's those options too.
Oh, that's an excellent idea.
I know locally the Detroit Children's Museum does that. You can get boxes that you can rent.
Oh, I had no idea that
For
was
free.
out there.
Yep.
Thank you, see, I'm learning. Thank you.
If any teacher wants me to come to their classroom after the program that we do, if they schedule me for 1 hour or 30 minutes, I'll go with my articles and go on, show them, take a bread or all those things, you know, what I have. Even I could take more.
Oh, okay.
So if any teacher wants to invite me to their schools, free of charge, because they think about
They're always worried about money.
Right. free of charge. I'll go, but don't schedule me on one day or all the schools.
Right, just remember not to pay
Yeah, because part of my job, once I had 20 schools, so a week, throughout the week. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Pretty awesome.
That's a good idea.
Yes, so I have that in mind, and if you want
You have to remind me though.
Yeah.
Getting
Wow.
brain overload.
Right.
Thank you, Carmen. Do you want to say something?
Oh, I just think that's wonderful. And, you know, you being from Afghanistan, when you think of your dress, food,
Right.
and language, I mean, these are all,
They're always
Visuals?
asking about those questions, like what do
yes.
what do you speak? What languages do you speak? What type of food? What's your food? Or the bread. In the book, it says a lot about naan, which is the bread, and our bread is different. It's like long, flat bread. So I could take that, or just try on the burqa. It's interesting for them.
Yes, absolutely.
Anything else?
I have a question if I can ask, or not
Sure, go
necessarily a
ahead,
question, a
Doctor.
comment. So, just going back to a comment that one of the teachers made a few minutes ago about the students and their writing and things like that. One of the responses that I often get from teachers that they appreciate, and I've then incorporated it more into my presentations, is I will show my students one of the first copies of my first draft. And I tell them, all right, first of all, in addition to being an author, I'm also a teacher. And so the students have this perception that authors and teachers, they can just spit out this book very quickly and everything's perfect the first time. So I show them, I'll use a second camera to show the students my first draft and how much revising and editing had to go through this. And I've had a lot of response from teachers over the years that they've really appreciated that, because they'll tell their students, they'll have students that come up and say, I'm done, and they don't want to revise because the student thinks that it's perfect. And so it's like, well, here I am, both an author and a teacher, and I have multiple drafts that I've gone through, and I'll say I've taken this piece and I've changed this, and there's been times where I've changed whole chapters or I've changed a whole ending to a story. So it really encourages the students to go back and look at revising and editing their stories a little bit more. And so that's just been one aspect that I've had a lot of positive feedback from the teachers on.
Thank you for that information. I like that. Very good. And you had a question?
I did for Dr. Kettel. So I see that this is the ACT program. It's a university level class at University
No,
of Michigan?
I incorporated it in my,
Oh,
in children's literature.
do you know, is that being incorporated into any other university classes?
I'm not aware of it.
Because I think that would be an amazing thing to, because I actually went to an author and illustrator class at Oakland University, and I got to meet Chris Crow last summer. And that was really cool. If something like that would have been introduced during that course and was all teachers taking the course, I think it would even be able to spread that. So I don't know how, but maybe just.
Yeah, go ahead, Danielle.
I teach, just as an example for that, I'm so excited about being here, I gotta calm down, I'm so typing so much, I'm literally feeling myself shaking a little bit because it's such an amazing program. At the University of Michigan Dearborn now, I started there 6 years ago, and I took over Dr. Kettel's Children's Lit course, and had to fill such huge shoes, and no idea what I was going to do, and he had provided me past syllabi that he'd used, and I asked him about the ASK program. Well, tell me about this, what's going on with this? So I use the ASK program still every semester that I teach Children's Lit. I also incorporate it with a writing course that I teach too, a K-8 writing methodology course for pre-service teachers. So our pre-service teachers get 2 chances with this. In addition to that, we also do a Young Authors Festival, a little plug-in for the Young Authors Festival at U of M Dearborn. This will be our 5th year. It's hosted in November. We connect a writing contest to it for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And what I find in teaching pre-service teachers and empowering them with these types of tools, I feel like we're going to have this great effect of teachers who aren't only interested in teaching kids how to write well, but are really interested in motivating writing and helping to connect authors and readers together. And that's, my goodness, that we've seen so many positive things. I go on, and I will not, but there's just so many beautiful moments that we're experiencing when we get to connect with authors or specialists. When I did the ASK program the first time, I didn't have any funding. I was brand new. I had no idea how to work all those details out. But what I did do is I asked my students, I said, we're going to read a book called Hollis Woods by Patricia Riley-Giff. Is that right? And I said, I need to know if any of you ever experienced a foster care system, however that might be, whether you were a foster care child or you're a foster care parent. And I had a student volunteer that year who had experienced the foster care system, and she became our specialist who we interviewed. The following year, I had a student who happened to be a foster care parent. So what I thought about, I'm a former 3rd grade teacher, and what I thought about was, you know, this is a great opportunity when your school can't afford to bring the authors out, is that you can also ask your families. And there's so many people and so many connections, sending that in a newsletter saying, here's a book we want to read, and we need to connect with somebody who is a specialist in this area, who wants to share their experience. That can really make some positive connections too. We've had Matt Faulkner come out for ASK program, and also anytime they come out for the ASK program, the authors, in addition, I've worked with Diane Bradley, who wrote the Wilder trilogy, and when they come out, they also come to our writing clinic for the other course, and then they do kind of just little celebration, author presentation. So my students get to see both. They get to see the ASK program, and then they also get to see the Young Authors Festival, and then an author presentation connected with students more on a small group basis, in a sense.
So lucky are the ones that, you know, the teachers that live in the Dearborn area.
But what I think we need to do, and we need to, and Ray and I have spoken earlier this summer too, is I think these ideas need to be published. I don't know if it comes in a book, I don't know if it comes in journal articles.
This could actually be a book.
This can be really huge. And I did a study with Ryan Hipp. This was 3-4 years ago, and he is an author of a book called Little Steps. And he came and did this entire year connection with this K-4 school. He started in the spring, and then he carried out a blog and a bunch of writing contests during the entire summer. And then he worked with the school the entire next year. So he was the author who kept coming back and really created this communication, this bond with them. What I'm finding in the research is that the connection with the technology, the amount of writing that the kids did, knowing that the author was their audience, was just amazing. And he didn't have to read everything. He would just provide sometimes specific comments, but a lot of times just kind of generalized comments. I'm so happy to see you writing. I've been writing too. I mean, just making those connections and making the life of writing real for people beyond the classroom walls was just there's just so many possibilities of how I think those hands-on tasks can happen, and it doesn't necessarily, in my eyes, have to be hands-on right then in the classroom. It can also be connecting through technology outside of the classroom, because having kids writing on blogs outside and connecting with the author too, the author was the one who ran the blog. That was how that worked. I don't know how he did it. I'm not technologically savvy, as much as I'd like to pretend I am. And then the other thing that I'm finding too is that when authors come in and they provide some type of like quick little writing lesson with students, or do a quick mini lesson or focus lesson with students, and then write along with them and then share, what we do as classroom teachers when we're teaching writing workshop, I'm finding such benefit when authors do that with them too, because then it's not just the teacher's telling them to write, but now you're writing with somebody else. And when the author writes with them too in that moment, some powerful stuff is happening with that too. I'll stop. I could talk forever, but I will.
So there's the answer to your question about involving classroom. New teachers, what a great experience for new teachers. Go to a school and observe the Ask program and even help the kids in writing their questions and reading the book, parts of the book to them. If you have student teachers.
Most teachers say it's very intimidating because they have a 12-step process, 12 or 13-step process. Like, we got to do all this, but once they do the program once, it's like a piece of cake. It's
Right.
Yeah.
I keep trying to get everyone in there.
I know. But Amy, are you there with us still? We skipped over you. Do you have any questions or comments?
I do have a comment. Hold on just a second here. For some reason, my equipment all of a sudden just like kicked me off here a minute ago, and I don't
That's
know what
good.
happened.
It got my attention. I'm like, oh, Amy, we need you. Thank you.
So one of the things that I really like, and I know when we've used this in the jazz program, as Janine had said, is that the teachers really like that it is not it makes the kids dive deeper into the books, and that it is not just the rote stuff that they're always thinking about all the time of where's the setting, where's the place, that kind of thing, that it makes them think deeper, and they really like that piece. I think one of the problems that sometimes causes an issue is because it makes the kids think deeper, it tends to cause a little bit more problem or a little bit more time to prep for it than, other things. I have been trying to promote this to my region for quite some time, and I do have quite a few people who do participate in the Ask programs, but I'd love to get more of our older students doing it, and it seems like we have a lot of younger student books and authors available, and I think that if we had more older programs for high school, middle school, high school students, I think that might be very much taken advantage of. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And that the book that I mentioned earlier, The Arsenal of Democracy, they could come to the Etzel Florida State after reading the book, and we could get a specialist from a Yankee Museum at Willow Run, and talk about artifacts. And
I have someone knocking at my door. Hold on, I'll be right back.
But I do want to mention that, and I know Jim and Army, I know it's going through their thoughts right now. We have tried so hard to get Teeny the high school. And between
I can see why it'd be hard. The curriculum
the
is very
schedule,
set. It's very set.
yes, and
There's no room.
I
Right.
think that's a big problem in all stages now, especially, I guess they're backing off a little bit on testing, but there's so much testing and so many demands on teachers right now, compared to when I taught, that it's hard to say, well, I'm going to add something in, and it's like, what do you take out, what do you add that in? So it is hard, and especially at the high school where they have a set curriculum, that I have to get this content done, whether it's English Lit or whatever it is, it becomes hard.
But
I know-
Amy, this year I have added some more novels,
Great.
high school type, and we'll just see how it goes. And I just scheduled them for 2 hours in the morning because I'm not going to waste the author's time in doing a full day when, we're
Right.
lucky to get 2 hours full. But yes, that has been brought up several times and we've tried it, but this year I'll try again, different season or different times of the year maybe, or different
Right.
hours. We just have to play with it.
I know one of the things that I look at, I know I just sort of heard the end of it when I got done answering the door, is that looking at the curriculum and what the teachers have to do. And I really try to look at my elementary school curriculum because the way here in New York State that we have changed the curriculum, pretty much everybody is teaching the same topics at the same time. So if I look at the curriculum and try to get those topics, I try to really suggest the books or the sessions that I think would really apply to them and fit in with their curriculum.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Like Elijah of Buxton. I don't know, that's another book by Christopher Paul Curtis.
Oh, that's a new one.
And the setting for that is just outside of Windsor. And there is such a place. And, when you go to Belle Isle and you're crossing the water, you're thinking, my gosh, if you go back to the 1800s, if you were crossing that water, you were going to freedom if you got to Windsor, to Canada. So, there is certainly the possibility of getting interesting, good literature, connecting it with social studies, if that's the area, the curriculum you're interested in. But I think people would know about certain books unless, and you're doing that. You said, did you know that there is a book and it's really, you ought to read this book. That's what I try to do. Put a book in the hands of a teacher that I know if they took the time to read it, they'd be, oh yeah, this is good. What can we do? It's hard to do it alone because the teachers they have no time. They just hardly have time. So what you're doing here, Denise, is outstanding. You're helping them. And we can do it at the university too, because, Danielle is teaching, 2 to 3 classes a semester. She's not starting at 8 o'clock and ending at 3:30 doing nothing but teaching. So, there are resources in the form of people that can be very helpful.
Yes, I found that very helpful the past couple of years. Jim and Arnie's always told me, well, if you don't know something, go find the answer. And so I get with consultants, they're the best to have around in the admin building. They just help me a whole bunch.
We've been fortunate actually at the ISD here. I can't say we anymore since I don't work here. But I think this ISD has done more in terms of buying books for the programs and things because, you say to the teacher, well, here's a book. Well, if I need 30 copies of it, where am I going to get that kind of money?
Right.
Unless you can get a grant from the place. So it's been nice that the ISD here has bought, 300 copies of a book for people. I don't know how many books we've gone through.
See, here in Macomb County,
We've been lucky in that way, I
yes,
think.
we supply all Macomb County teachers with classroom materials. If it's a chapter book, they get 35 books. If it's a picture book, they only get 1 book to read to the class. And that's where I came in with having to take care of all these materials. Now, for the Twice program, teachers have to rely on themselves to get their own book. And I always direct them to the author's website. And I let teachers know they can usually get a discount if they tell them they're in the Twice program. And then I will send PDF activities to the Twice teachers. Sometimes they look at them, sometimes they don't. But I know email is a big issue with sending PDF files. Hopefully this year with the new Twice website, we can put PDF files right on the website. That would really work better. But the materials, Macomb County, they are a big supporter of the distance learning programs we have here. And whether it's an ASK program, a science program, we're coming out with the Poetry Cafe program this year, a science a Planting We Will Grow program. A paratrooper is coming here to talk about the parachutes that they do for middle school this year. So that, we're calling those interactive distance learning programs because they're not asked. And I mean, you can go so many different ways with collaborating between classes, like the Twice does the Read Around the Planet, and they have their own collaborations. So the Ask program is just the biggest part of our DL programs, but then we go outside the box and do other things as well. So, yes, Macomb County, and thanks to Jim and Artie that had talked the Macomb ISD into supporting Macomb County teachers in the first place. Yeah, big time. Yes. Hi, you're new.
Yeah, I'm Barb Musin. I was at another meeting, so I took some time off to sneak over here. And I've been involved with the Ask program for, it's got to be 10 years. I started in 3rd grade. I taught 3rd grade for a really long time. And the more I got interested in it, the more I realized that there's a lot of fundamental ideas that the authors give us that we don't necessarily know as teachers. No one really, when the new teachers come in, no one has really taught them as much as they need to know about how do you read a book, what book should you read, what book should you find, how do you integrate that into your curriculum. I was very fortunate because my daughter has her PhD in children's literature, and that's what she does. That's her job, is that she teaches teachers how to teach literature. And the one thing that I've learned from her is that now that I'm teaching 5th grade, it's not just chapter books for 5th grade. 5th graders still need to stay in the basics of reading picture books, because picture books aren't necessarily written for younger, lower L children. So even in my library, in my former school, I'm studying in a new school this year, the story was 5th graders couldn't take out picture books. They could take out 2 books, but they had to be chapter books. So that was a big thing that I was there 7 years. Finally, they let my students take out picture books because they need to read picture books. And I was so happy to see that in the Ask program, there are so many different picture books that are really worthwhile for 5th graders to read. So now they have really changed their tune at my school and with the kids of what's acceptable for a 5th grader to read. So I've been really fortunate that I've had this little quest, and Ask has really helped me with it. I love the program. I do it usually 4 times a year.
4 to 10.
That's a lot.
You and Sroka.
And yeah, it's hard to fit it in, but I'm really careful that I keep up the energy at the beginning of the year. So I wait for that day that I can sign up. I already have my things fit into where I can put them. Then it's in. And then by about, November or December, I'm not quite as enthusiastic as I was the first day of school, but it's on the chart, it's on the calendar. So then I already told the kids that this is what we're gonna do, so I can't back out. And there's been so many times that I thought, oh my gosh, I gotta read this whole book, and I only have a month. And some of the best books that we've read are the books that I've snuck in just a few minutes a day, and then the kids not only read those books, but they read different books that the author has written, or it will take them into a whole different situation of things they didn't know before. So I think that's what I tell my friends in the classrooms to do, is those first few days when you're so overencompassed with all of this stuff, you got to get it on, because then you'll do it. And once you do it 2 or 3 times and you realize that it's not a big stressful thing, it's really fun for the kids and they love it. The best compliment that an author can give one of my students is, I've never had that question before. And the kids are so excited by that. So after the first presentation and somebody says that to one of the students, that's their goal, is to write a question that is meaningful about, maybe about the book, maybe about the author, maybe about the author's interest, a question that they've never been asked before. And that's pretty much takes the job away from me to do the whole deep thinking. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys. It's just phenomenal. And I know sometimes you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, this hour is taking forever. But those of us on the other side, we really do appreciate it. Your wisdom and your guidance to my students who up until now have been a Title I school. Some of them, I have fifth graders who read at a second grade level. So some of them, reading is certainly not their thing. And my goal is to make lifelong readers out of them before they leave me 180 days later. And you guys really make the difference. I don't care half the time if your books work into my curriculum or not. It's all language arts and it's all reading a book. So that's what I use as, you know, when I'm calculating what I have done and the reasons why. It's language arts. Reading a book is never a bad thing. So as far as going right into direct curriculum, that's important, but it doesn't have to keep you away. I know we've read so many books about slavery and those kinds of things, and I don't necessarily teach slavery in the United States, but I do teach the beginning of slavery at the beginning of the formation of the United States. So kids don't know anything about that, and it doesn't matter what culture or race or nationality. When you tell them sometimes that slavery existed, they have no clue. So when we read a story about that, it opens their eyes to so many different things. So I'm not going to blabber anymore, but I'm thrilled to be here, and I just want to let you know, and those of you who've worked with the program that I've never met that are always on the other side, it's a thrill for me every time we do it. It never gets old. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
Barb, what school are you teaching?
I taught at Ottawa for 7 years, and before that I taught at Clinton Valley, both Title I schools. This year I've transferred to another school, which is barely on the Title, you know, they're just above the Title I range. So I'm not really sure what my clientele will be. This is Ojibwa Elementary, all in Chippewa Valley.
Thank you, Barbara, for being here.
No,
And thank you for inviting me.
You said something, and I think that's what why I enjoy literature, period. Because as you are working with, whether I'm working with college students or teachers or with children, you're learning with them. And when you're done with an Ask program, you always know more about that book than you did before, always. And I'm thinking of a book called Fat Chance. Oh, that, you know, on eating disorders. And I just made a comment in class that I'm putting that on the syllabus, and I said I don't know what you know about bulimia or anorexia or whatever, but this is done in the contents of a good story, and you might want to take a look at it. Maybe we'll have an Ask program on something like this someday. And in a very short time, a student came to me with someone who was around 20 or 21, and she read the book, and she was a eating disorder individual to the degree of almost dying. And we had 8th graders come to this. And it was very moving. And I really, it was an experience where I should have known that before, but I would have never known it if it wasn't done in a way where students would read, then they would connect with situations that we didn't even, even parents didn't know their kids knew what was going on. And even kids within the class are starting themselves to look like, somebody in a magazine. So it is a way to reach out to kids in a variety of levels that you would have no other way to do it. There is just not another way. And you're doing it through good literature.
It also becomes a part of my curriculum. Once I've seen a program and I'm enthusiastic about it, then things have to move around for me to put it in. And because I have that enthusiasm about what I've seen, I think that helps gets the kids all geared up too. So they look forward to it. I mean, there's been so many good programs that I've seen, and my list just gets longer every year. But it's almost like that's my legacy to the kids, is to, here are all these books that you can learn. It doesn't have to be the author that we talk to. It can be a specialist. I mean, it's just, when we read The Wall by Eve Bunting, and then we had, somebody help me, who was the specialist?
Gordy for them.
Yeah, Gordy, oh my gosh. I've seen him now 3 times. And each time he comes and talks about what was it like to be in a war, what was it like to be in Vietnam. And it really digs deep into his soul to tell kids what that means to fight for America. All of a sudden, we do it right before Memorial Weekend. All of a sudden, Memorial Day comes and these kids are connected. When we stand and do the pledge, nobody else is fooling around in the classroom anymore, because Gordy has connected them with a world that they know nothing about. So I think it's really important that you even try things that don't have anything to do with your curriculum, because it does have a lot to do with these kids' lives, and they don't necessarily, especially the ones that are low socioeconomic class, their parents and they don't have experiences that I might have had. So if I tell them it's, oh, there's Mrs. Musin going on about another story, but when they see that other people have that connection, it's meaningful to them on a way of survival. It may even change their lives.
And keep in mind that if kids can't read because they don't have the skills to read, they should, because they're in the 5th grade or the 7th grade, but they can't. You can always record the story and have them read along with it. So they can get involved in no matter what level they're at.
Yeah, no matter what, if it's a chapter book or a picture book, I always either find it as an audio book and have it read to them, or I read it with them too. I don't just assign pages and say, okay, we're going to talk about this book in a month. I actually read it out loud with them, because that's fun for me too. I mean,
and you know, you can learn how to read by having someone read to you. And so an audio book allows this to happen. You hear it, you're following along the page, and you might say, well, you should have done that years ago. Well, that's true, but it didn't happen for whatever reason, or maybe the youngster wasn't ready. And so you are teaching reading and writing no matter what else, you know, you can poke at and say, well, it doesn't include this part of the curriculum. If we can't read and we can't write, we're in trouble.
that's right.
Bud Not Buddy is one of the audios that we use, and it's fantastic. They love it.
Who reads it?
Oh,
it's not Christopher. I have not heard it read, so
I'm thinking I thought it was him.
oh, all right, that's cool.
Okay, thank you for all that information and sharing all your ideas and thoughts. Appreciate it. But I do want to get in the last few minutes we have here, the 2 that you never see or do see and have no idea how they are important to the distance learning world. We have Brian Boudreau and Steve Michael that do our bridging for the programs. Steve, I know you're hiding on us, aren't you? Okay, Brian, your comments.
Well,
Put you on the spot.
I'm not an educator, but I am a parent, and my kids have been involved with the ASK program for all of their elementary and middle school years. And I will say that it's a lot of fun to see my own children's reaction when they're connected via video conference through the programs. And Janie knows this personally, that I've called them out to get a student count, which is just kind of my fun way to embarrass my own children. But it's just interesting to see the people that you've interacted with and left a lasting impression with them, because my kids still talk about some of the authors that we do in these programs, and my nieces and my neighbors' kids, and it's been such a good program. And I just, technology is just a tool. So this is what we use. It's changing. That's what I do. But it's just been a great program, and I hope it stays together for as long as it can. I know eventually the technology will change, and these kids will just be looking at their phone doing a program or their watch. Who knows? But it's the authors, it's the specialists, it's the people that put this together that really touch them, and it hits them in a way that, a lasting impression for their life.
Oh, nicely put, Brian. Thank you. Appreciate it. Steve, I guess, is not there then?
He's still connected, but he might not be on the other end.
Okay. Well, thank you.
They're super important to us too. I can't tell you how many times I'm freaking out not being able to get connected, or it's always the day of distance learning. My husband says, "Oh my gosh, it's distance learning day." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And I freak out to try to get everything right and not appear to be, totally this is an unknown field to me, because I have been doing it so long. Actually, I have a little camera now, and it hooks into my computer, so I no longer have to bring the card in. And I was given that by the district. It was almost like a reward for doing the most distance learning. And I didn't tell anyone I had it, so when I moved schools, it just kind of went with me. But that really has helped me, new technology, to cut down on the worry. Can I get the card working? Can I connect? And there's many times that there's, last year, I think, in our building, we had M-Step going on during the same time as distance learning. And we had taken down the firewalls or put up different firewalls, and it just kept knocking distance learning out. So for one of our groups, they finally had to, find other ways to get connected. And Brian, I know I've worked with Brian, and they're really patient and nice and don't make us feel like we're kind of inept. And it's because we really want to do it. And I've learned so many things through the mistakes I've made over the years, so.
Well, even with
we
the
appreciate
authors
it.
and the specialists, they rearranged if a school couldn't get connected or a class, they've actually gone out to the school or Skyped with that particular classroom to give them that experience, because they missed the program on the scheduled time. So authors are, I know Janie's done it, and Author has done it, Author Drew, and I know
It's
a few
definitely a
people.
teamwork project. All the different, when you think about it happening, and happening 3 times a day, and I don't know how many times you guys do the programs, but that's a lot of technology issues and author and specialist issues. I mean, to get all those people connected, and then to have 3 classes of kids and get them to, try to act like human beings. It's really, it's a big adventure for all of us.
And the miracle is, they usually do act, in a
They do.
surprising way.
Right.
I look at these videos that we have, and they are engaged. There is no craziness going on.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And when we try to sit for an hour in the classroom and give a lesson, well, I mean, it's unheard of, because we can't keep their attention for an hour on anything.
Okay, with that, we're basically at the end of our program now, and I want to thank everyone. I can't thank you enough for all the support, and Jim and Artie coming out, Chris, and Chris is the one on the Ask video, so she's quite famous, I think. She did a really, really good job. She's not here.
Now that video needs to be burned. You just need to.
You did an excellent
just
job.
do that.
that information never gets old anymore.
Well, those kids, that group of kids was the group of kids that interviewed Christopher Paul Curtis, and Jim was worried, you know, oh, what are we gonna have to pay him and this, that, and the other. I was having a panic attack because I was busing 126 graders over here.
Oh,
That was before any equipment in the buildings, and
it was alive.
And, you know, when you got 6th grade girls wearing high heels that they don't know how to walk in, and they went to get their hair done, and the boys have suits on, because I told them they had to wear church clothes, and they're 6th graders, and you don't know what they're gonna do, yeah. But it's been a ride. It has certainly been, it has been a ride.
Yes, it's a beautiful program. It is, and I feel so special, and like I keep saying, Ernie and Jim, it's always back to them, that they taught me well, that I hope I can carry on these big shoes they've left for me, and just, yeah, I'm very grateful.
All read good books, right?
Yes.
Let me tell you about a book I read.
I know, now everybody's, oh, I have this book, I have that book, I'm like, all right, slow down. Book overload. But thank you for the authors and the specialists and the teachers that engage in the programs and tell others about it, and it's just amazing that, just like Dr. Kettel calling me out of the blue. I'm calling about your ASK program. Like, Dr. Kettel, oh my gosh. I feel so honored. So thank you so much for taking time to be here.
I'm glad you were there to pick up the phone. She doesn't take my calls.
But Ray was right when he said about people will say yes. It's amazing how many people I have contacted and they say yes to me. So I would encourage you as teachers or authors, whatever, ask people, don't be afraid to because you'll lose some great resources.
Well, we did try Melissa Gilbert and she said no. So, but we did try.
That's the worst thing that can happen.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can even, I've had the luck of having specialists that are related to my students. We did an ASK program on the book Petey.
Oh, yeah.
One of my students, her cousin, had cerebral palsy. Okay, so we wheeled him into the library, and I had no idea, and Katie just came up and said, well, my cousin has cerebral palsy, and blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, give me the phone number of your aunt, and we'll see what we can do. And it worked, and it worked real well. So, the specialists could be closer than you think.
I asked my students, we did one for Rules by Cynthia Lord, and that's about a little girl whose little brother has autism. And we had a great one too with one of my students who has a brother with autism, and she gave one just such a wonderful interview. The whole process was really wonderful. So I think connecting as much as you can, it helps people get to know each other better too. And then when you connect with your families, it empowers them. And I don't know, there's so many great things with that specialist role, let alone the author role, which
I know we have excellent specialists that really get into the program and help us out a lot. Thank you.
Hey, can I just jump in and offer one little suggestion piece from the other end of the world? I would love to have, not that I don't love the Bud, not Buddy, Ask video, but if we could get a newer version of that, it would be wonderful.
Yes.
And I see you shaking your head going, no, it's not happening.
Well, no, only because, okay, that was done in 2000 while we were getting ready for Christopher Paul Curtis. And there was a certain process that I was kind of sort of following. Well, over the years, I've tweaked it and changed it to where it works better for my kids. Mm-hmm. So that video isn't accurate anymore. And yes, it needs to be updated because I look a whole lot better in that video than I do right now. And, you know, we need to get some young, you know, yeah. People, you know, are disappointed, they see that and then they see me and it's like, what happened to you? You know, 18 years of teaching 8th grade is what happened to me. You know.
I have to say, when I heard you speak, I didn't connect it at first with the video, but when I heard you speak, I'm like, I know this voice. I know this voice. Where is this voice?
I haunt a lot of people. Now,
But it's great. It's just, it's very, you can tell it's been recorded a while ago, and it's kind of quiet to try to show it and demonstrate it to people. So
over the years, I think the process that would be used effectively for elementary is different than for middle school or high school. So I think there has to be 2 levels, or there could be. I'm not saying there has to be anything.
No, that's a good point.
Because, you know, the lower L kids, what 1st and 2nd graders can do, you know,
Right.
doesn't even compare with what 8th graders are capable of accomplishing. So maybe there needs to be 2 levels of the video. And I'm not available, so there's
maybe that's something, though, that we could think about, you know, as the Twice group, help thinking about getting some newer videos out about the benefits of it and how to do it and just putting it out there.
Definitely. Well, Brian recorded this program, and it's not going to be sold or anything, but we may put, Brian can work his magic and put bits and pieces together too. But you're right. And now that we're back in contact with Dr. Kettel, we thought he just fell into
Well,
a book somewhere.
you thought I lived in Lansing, right?
Yes. Yeah, that too. But, so we're closer now, we can get more updated footage of Dr. Kettel for this. Thank you. All right, so with that, thank you all for connecting through video conferencing today. I really appreciate you taking time, your precious time, because I know most of you are on vacation still and doing things here and there. So enjoy the rest of your summer, and thank you for setting up the schedule with me for this year. And I am the Twice organization person and Macomb Ask person, and so I know people get it really confused, but it's 2 separate things. So thank you so much for all your support. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.